In today's video, we will continue the best trading strategy series in which we compare and backtest dozens of indicators for different purposes to find the best ones. If you didn't know, in this series I am following the NNFX trading strategy system, which consists of 5 main indicators: the ATR as a stop loss, a C1 indicator or the primary entry signal indicator, a C2 confirmation indicator, a baseline indicator, a volume indicator, and an exit signal indicator. In the previous parts of this series, we were looking for the best entry signal indicator, the best exit signal indicator, the best baseline indicator, and we also researched which assets are best for which strategy types. If you haven't seen those previous videos yet, I highly recommend you do so, as this series is probably our most valuable content filled with useful knowledge. Today I'm excited to present you the part 2 of the best momentum indicator video. In the first part we tested 11 momentum indicators in their usual way of usage. For example, long entries with the MACD were only allowed if the MACD line was above the signal line. But there was one indicator which I tested differently, and that is the ADX. Usually the ADX is used with a limit level, for example the 20, and in that case trade entries are only allowed if the ADX is higher than the 20 level. But I used an exponential moving average, or EMA, combined with the ADX. This way both longs and short entries were only allowed if the ADX was above the EMA. And surprisingly, this version proved to be the best performing one out of all the 11 indicators I tested. So I had an idea. What if I use the EMA with all the one-line indicators, just like with the ADX? Maybe they will give better results too? I did exactly that. For every one-line indicators I tested in the first part, I created an EMA version, and for every two-line indicators, I created a limit level version. So for this part 2 video, I backtested these modified versions, plus I brought one new indicator, the relative momentum index. Besides that, in the comment section, many of you requested a daily chart backtest, so I did that too. I have to warn you that if you are new to algorithmic trading, basic statistics and backtesting, this video might not be the best for you. My backtesting, sorting and ranking method is complex, however I try to explain everything as simply as possible. So if you are new to this, take your time, because once you learn how to do this on your own, you will be able to find the best, most useful and most accurate indicators out there. So in this video I will show you all the indicators, the parameters I will test, explain the testing, sorting and ranking method, and finally show you the results, revealing which is the best momentum indicator. If you know of other momentum indicators that you want to see tested, let me know in the comments. Hello everyone, welcome to TradeSmart. Without wasting any time, let's get right into it. First of all, let's see which momentum indicators I will be testing and how will I use them. These indicators are the ADX with limit levels, the CCI with EMA, the candle momentum with EMA, the MACD with a zero limit level, the momentum with EMA, the MTM with zero line limit, the RSI with EMA, the squeeze momentum with EMA, the stochastic with limit level, the TSI with limit level, the Williams percentage R with an EMA, and the new indicator, the relative momentum index or RMI, with EMA and with a 50 limit level. Now I will quickly go over all of these new indicator variants one by one. You can also check out the indicators I used in the first part in that video by clicking on the pop-up in the top right corner or find the link down in the description. After I explain the indicator, we will jump into the parameters and testing methods. First of all, let's see the TSI with limit level. Open up the indicators tab and type in TSI. You will need to add the true strength index to your chart. This is how it looks. We won't need the signal line, so I will untick that. And how it works is the following. We will use the zero limit level, and long entries are only allowed if the TSI is above the zero level. Similarly, short entries are only allowed if the TSI is below the zero level. So this would have been a valid short entry, this is not a valid long entry, this is not a valid short entry, and this is a valid long entry. Moving on, the next indicator is the CCI with EMA. Type in CCI, add the commodity channel index, and type in EMA, and add the moving average exponential. Now click on the EMA and start pulling it down and release it when you are at the CCI. Now open up the EMA, change its color to white, and change its source from close to CCI. This way the EMA will move according to the CCI. The rule is very simple. Long trades are only allowed if the CCI line is above the CCI-based EMA. Short entries are only allowed if the CCI line is below the CCI-based moving average. So this would have been a valid short entry, this would have been a valid long entry, this is a valid short, and this is a valid long. Next up, let's see the candle momentum with EMA. This candle momentum indicator with the moving average is also included in all of our premium scripts that you can get access to on our Patreon. Type in ChandeMo and add the candle momentum oscillator. Also type in EMA and add the moving average exponential. Just like before, click on the moving average, start pulling it down and release it when you are on the ChandeMo. Open up the EMA settings, change the line color to white and change its source from close to ChandeMo. And just like what will happen with all of the EMA-based indicators, long entries are allowed if the ChandeMo is above the ChandeMo-based moving average, and short entries are allowed if the ChandeMo is below the ChandeMo-based moving average. So this would have been a valid short entry, this would have been a valid long entry, this is a valid short, and this is a valid long. Next up, the momentum with EMA. Type in momentum, add this one to your chart, and type in EMA. Add the moving average exponential. Again, I will put the EMA to the momentum indicator, then open up its settings, change its source from close to momentum, and its line color to white. Long entries are allowed if the momentum is above the momentum-based moving average, and short entries are allowed if the momentum is below the momentum-based moving average. That way, this would have been a valid short, this is a valid long, this is a valid short, and this is a valid long. Next up, the MTM with limit level. Type in MTM and add the MTM momentum indicator. Open up its settings and untick the MTMMA as we won't need that. And that's all. For this one, we are using a zero level limit, which will be right there. And long entries are only allowed if the MTM momentum is above the zero level, and short entries are only allowed if the MTM is below the zero level. Which means this would have been a valid short, this is not a valid long, this is a valid short, and this would have been just barely but a valid long. Next up, the RMI basic. As the RMI is the new indicator, we will test it in two different ways, so type in RMI and add the relative momentum index by averget. With the basic version of this indicator, we will use a 50 limit level, which means that long entries are only allowed if the RMI is above the 50 level, and short entries are only allowed if it's below the 50 level. Which means this is a valid short, this is a valid long, this is a valid short, and this is another valid long. Next up, let's just quickly go over the RMI with an EMA. Add an EMA to your chart. Then click on it, pull it to the RMI indicator, open up its settings, change its source to RMI, and that's all. With the EMA version, long entries are only allowed if the RMI is above the RMI-based moving average, and short entries are only allowed if the RMI is below the RMI-based moving average. That means that this would have been a valid short, this is a valid long, this is a valid short, and this is another valid long. Next, we have the RSI with an EMA. Back to the Indicators tab, type in RSI, add the Relative Strength Index, and type in EMA, and add the Exponential Moving Average. Now open up the RSI settings, go to the Styles tab, and uncheck the RSI based EMA as we won't need that. Then click on the EMA and pull it to the RSI. Now open up the EMA settings, change its line to white, then to the Inputs tab and change its source from close to RSI. Now the EMA will move according to the RSI, and long entries are only allowed if the RSI is above the RSI-based EMA. Similarly, short entries are allowed if the RSI is below the RSI-based EMA. Which means that this is a valid short entry, this is a valid long entry, this is a valid short, and this is a valid long. Next up, we have the squeeze momentum with EMA. Type in squeeze and add the squeeze momentum indicator by lazy bear. Also type in EMA, add the moving average exponential, then click on it, pull it down, open up its settings, change its source to squeeze momentum, the first one, and let's color it white. Okay, now this is a bit trickier, and that's because of the plotting of the squeeze momentum. Long entries are allowed if the squeeze momentum is higher than the squeeze momentum based moving average, and it doesn't matter if it's colored red or green, it just had to be higher than the moving average. So throughout this period we could have get a very long entry. Similarly, short entries are only allowed if the squeeze momentum bars are lower than the squeeze momentum based moving average. Now I have to zoom in to see this one, but that means that that would have been a valid short entry, this is a valid long entry, this is a valid short, and the last one would have been just barely but a valid long entry. Okay, next up we have the Williams percentage R, and we also need to add an EMA. Click on the EMA, start pulling it down and release it at the Williams percentage R. Open up its settings, change the line style to white and the source from close to Williams percentage R. Just as before, long entries are allowed if the Williams percentage R is above the moving average, and short entries are allowed if it's below the moving average. That means this is a valid short, this is a valid long, this is a valid short, and this is a valid long. Okay, next up the ADX with a limit level. Type in ADX, click on this one, and we will need to add a limit level. Let's add it now to the 29. Later on I will show you which exact limit levels we are going to use. We will use 4 different limit levels, but for this example we are using the 20. Both long and short entries are only allowed if the ADX is above the limit level. But why? Well, the ADX works differently than most of the indicators. It doesn't take into account if the price moves up or down, it only looks for the strength of the movement. As you can see, here the price has a strong move to the downside and the ADX is growing. Here it has another strong movement to the upside and it starts growing again. So this means that this short entry is not valid as the ADX is below the limit level. This is a valid long entry, this is a valid short, and this is another valid long entry. We only have 2 left, so bear with me. Next, the MACD with a limit level, add the moving average convergence divergence, and we will use the 0 limit level which is in the middle. Now for this one we have 2 rules. First of all, the MACD needs to be bullish, which means that this blue line, which is the MACD line, is above this orange line, which is the signal line. Besides that, we need to have both of the lines above the 0 level. For shorts, both of the lines needs to be below the 0 level, and the MACD line, the blue one, needs to be below the orange line, which is the signal line. That means that this is a valid short entry, this is not a valid long entry, this is not a valid short entry, because both of the lines are above the 0 level, and this is a valid long entry. And finally, let's take a look on the stochastic with limit levels. This one will work just like the MACD. We need 2 conditions to be met. For long entry, both of the stochastic lines needs to be above the middle 50 level, and then the blue line needs to be above the orange line. For shorts, the opposite rule needs to be met. The blue line needs to be below the orange line, and both of the lines needs to be below the middle 50 level. So this would have been a valid short, this is a valid long, this is a valid short, and this is a valid long. And that's all. We covered all of the new indicators we will test in this video. Of course, besides that, I will also test the previous indicators on the daily time frame too. And now, let's go over the backtesting details. If you've seen the first part of this video, feel free to skip this part using the timestamps, as the backtesting method is the same, the only difference is that I tested the daily time frame too. For backtesting, as always, I used Tradingview, as if I had a coded strategy, I can get accurate backtest results for years of market data with just a few clicks. To backtest each momentum indicator in a fair way, this time I took a slightly different approach. First, I coded a simple strategy with the super trend and the range filter indicator. In this strategy, I used the super trend as the C1 primary entry signal indicator and the range filter as the exit signal indicator. Once I got this simple strategy coded, I made 11 different versions for each momentum oscillator. A quick tip: to code these simple strategies, I used ChatGPT. So if you want to learn how you can do the same, check out our other channel TradeSmart AI by clicking on the pop-up in the top right corner or find a link down in the description. I shared all of the code strategies and the backtests with the Smart Trader tier members on our Patreon, so if you want to get access to these scripts and the backtest results, check out our Patreon and become a Smart Trader tier member. In each version I used different momentum indicators as the C2 or entry signal confirmation indicator. This means that each strategy can only enter into a trade if the C2 momentum indicator allows it. Now let's see which parameters, assets and timeframes I tested. As always, to make the comparison as fair and as diverse as possible, I tested 3 assets, 1 crypto, 1 forex and 1 stock. I tested 3 timeframes, 15-minute, 2-hour and daily. I tested 2 trade directions separately, which are of course long and short. And the one thing I did different this time, I will explain why in a moment. I tested 4 times 4 entry signal setups and 4 times 4 exit signal setups randomly. It might sound complicated at first, but it really isn't. I used the super trend as the main entry signal indicator, and it has 2 parameters, the ATR multiplier and the ATR length. For the ATR multiplier, I will test it from 1.6 to 6 with a step of 1.5. This means I will test 1.5, 3, 4.5 and 6 multiplier values. Also, it has an ATR length option, and with that I tested the 5, 10, 15 and 20 values with a step of 5. I took the same approach with the exit signal indicator and with the momentum filters too. But why do I test randomly instead of testing all the possible combinations? Testing all the combinations would result in hundreds of thousands or millions of combinations, which would take me weeks or even months to complete. And as we are looking for a statistically significant edge, we don't really need to test all the possible parameters if we use a random parameter choice backtesting method. And why do I test different entry and exit signal combinations if I'm only interested in which is the best momentum or C2 indicator? To find the best momentum indicator, we need to make the backtest as diverse as possible, and the best momentum indicator should perform well in most of the conditions. For example, Bitcoin moves way differently than the Euro-USD pair, trading on the 5-minute chart is way different than trading on the 2-hour chart, and using a faster reacting entry signal and exit signal indicator, much more entries and exits, is way different than using a slow reacting entry and exit signal indicator. By backtesting each momentum, entry and exit signal indicator in these different conditions, we can get a statistically relevant and significant backtest result to determine which indicator works the best in most conditions. But what about the momentum indicators? For choosing which parameters to test on the momentum indicators, I choose a simple method. I will be testing a multiplication of the default values. Let's take a look on, for example, the Williams percentage R with EMA. The Williams percentage R's default length value is 14, so I tested 7, 14, 21 and 28 lengths. And for the EMA length I tested the same values, just like with every other EMA modified indicator. Just like with the entry and exit signal indicators, I will be backtesting each momentum indicator with random parameter settings. But now let's see the numbers. How many backtest combinations are we really dealing with, and how many I will actually test? To break it down, I took 3 of the 11 momentum indicators. The squeeze momentum with EMA has 2 sets of parameters, the TSI has 1 set, and the ADX with limit level has 4. Testing every possible combination for the squeeze momentum with EMA would look something like this. 4 times 4 parameters, times 3 assets, times 3 timeframes, times 4 times 4 entry setups, times 4 times 4 exit setups, times 2 directions, which comes out to a total of 73,728 combinations. And for the other 2 indicator types, these are the number of combinations. In total, we have 1 indicator with 1 parameter, 8 indicators with 2 parameters, and 4 indicators with 3 parameters. If I would test all the possible combinations, I would need to do more than 2 million backtests, and that would probably take 1 or 2 months to complete. So that's why this time, to get a statistically relevant result, I will backtest the parameters randomly with a Chrome extension designed for tests like this. I will backtest 2% of all the possible combinations, which equals to 46,322 combinations. This backtest number is achievable in just a few days. If you watched this video so far, congratulations on your dedication. I hope you already gained some useful knowledge. If so, drop a like on this video to let me know if you want to see more content like this. Okay, hang on tight, we are almost finished. We only have the fees, the sorting system and the ranking system to cover. Let's see the fees and other rules next. For crypto, I used 0.05% fee per trade and 2 tick slippage. For stocks, I used the same, and for Forex, I used 20 tick slippage as fee. I will backtest each setup on the last 4 years of price data, and I set up a trade count limit to only keep statistically significant results. On the daily, the minimum trade count is 30, on the 2-hour 100, and on the 15-minute 200 trades. Now let's see how the sorting system looks like. To sort the 27,000 backtests, I created 18 groups. And that's because I have tested 3 timeframes, 3 assets and 2 directions. So 3 times 3 times 2 is 18. Here you can see an example group of the 5-minute chart on BTC USDT with long only direction. In each of these groups I put all the momentum indicators results that were tested on this combination. You will see why we need these groups on the next slide, the ranking system. To find out which momentum indicator is the best, so which one can improve a simple strategy the most, I sorted each group based on profit factor. But why profit factor and not net profit? As each backtest has different number of trades, using net profit as the point of comparison is not ideal. Because a backtest which has 200 trades instantly has a higher chance to generate more net profit compared to a backtest that has only 100 trades. And that's where profit factor comes in. Profit factor solves this problem as it is the gross profit divided by the gross loss. For the profit factor, the number of trades is insignificant as its ratio between the profits and losses matter. So after I sorted all the 18 groups by profit factor, in each group I gave points to the 20 best results. The backtest result with the highest profit factor will get 20 points, the second best 19 points, and so on until 1. In a different column I also weighted the points, which is the base rank point multiplied by the profit factor. But why? Let's say in a group the top result has a 5 profit factor, and the second one only 1.5. By using the simple ranking points, the 5 profit factor result would get 20 points, and the 1.5 profit factor backtest 19 points. This way the profit factor difference is not really represented by the points. But by using the weighted points, the top result with 5 profit factor would get 100 points, and the second best with 1.5 profit factor only gets 30 points. In my opinion, this represents the true difference between backtest results more accurately. And finally, to find out which momentum indicator is the best C2 entry confirmation indicator, I added together all the base points and weighted points of all the 18 groups, and the momentum indicator which gets the most points will be the best momentum indicator. Well, let me know what you think of this system. What would you change? Do you have a better idea how to compare these indicators? Let me know in the comments. And now, are you ready for the results? Well, let's see. Here you can see the absolute top 3 results based on profit factor. Keep in mind these are not the best momentum indicators, these are just which gave the highest profit factor on one individual setup. First we have the stochastic with a 50 limit level, which gave a 52 profit factor on the BTC daily time frame. The trade direction was long only, and here you can see its settings. The second placement is the Williams percentage R with a negative 50% limit. This gave really close profit factor to the first one, it was 47. And the third place winner is the normal stochastic indicator. Next up, here you can see the absolute top 3 results based on net profit. Here from the previous spreadsheet, the first place winner got to the second place with a 457% net profit on the BTC daily chart, long only direction. And the second place winner now got to the first place, which is the Williams percentage R with a negative 50 limit, gaining 520% net profit. And on the third place we have the ADX with limit level. Okay, now let's see which are the best momentum indicators. Here you can see the best momentum indicators based on base points. The first place goes to the stochastic normal, which gained 674 base points. The second place goes to the ADX with EMA with 402 points. And the third place, the RMI with EMA with 391 points. So based on the base points, the part 1 video's winner, which was the ADX with EMA, now got to the second placement. Here you can see the best momentum indicators based on the weighted points. Now the first place winner is also the stochastic normal indicator with more than 6,000 points. The second place goes to the ChanDemo with EMA, which is included in all of our premium scripts. And back at that time, I didn't know about this result. So including this indicator, including the ChanDemo with an EMA into our premium scripts, back then was a pretty good guess. The third place goes to the ADX limit level version, the fourth to the Williams percentage R with EMA, and the fifth to the stochastic with 50 limit level. Here there's one thing that needs to be mentioned. The stochastic normal gained much more points than the second place winner, around 4 times the points. And now the spreadsheet that is the most important in my opinion. Let's see the best momentum indicators overall. In this spreadsheet I took into account both the base points and the weighted points and created a normalized points section. I also created an average rank based on the base points rank and the weighted points rank. After finishing up this research, in my opinion, the best momentum indicator overall is the stochastic with the normal usage. The second place goes to the ADX limit level version. Keep in mind this is not the one that I showcased in the first video, this is the one I showcased in this video. The third place goes to the RMI with EMA, the fourth place to the ChanDemo momentum with EMA, which is included in our premium script, and the fifth goes to the Williams percentage R with EMA. So the previous winner, the ADX with EMA, couldn't make it to the top 5. But where is it then? Let's see. Here you can see all the results of all of the indicators that got any points in the backtest. To make it easier, I included different tiers. You've probably seen this tier list before. We have S tier, which is the best, then A tier, B tier, C tier, D, E, and F tier. And if we take a closer look, here you can see the ADX with EMA indicator, which took the 6th place out of the 24 indicators. What is also interesting on this chart is that the normal ChanDemo with a limit level was actually one of the worst ones. I would say you can pick any indicator from the S or A tier, they will give you great results. I would avoid anything below the C tier, so avoid the D, E, and F tier for momentum indicator usage overall. And that wraps up today's video. If you found this video valuable, drop a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. It really helps out this channel. If you want to support my work and try out the 11 coded strategies I used to complete this backtest and all of our other premium Tradingview strategy scripts, check out our Patreon and become a Smart Trader tier member. If you want to find out which is the best entry signal, exit signal, or baseline indicator, check out this video. Or if you want to learn how to code simple strategies with ChatGPT, check out this video on the TradeSmart AI channel. As always, thank you all for watching, have an amazing day, and until next time, trade smart.